Hi, my name is Lily Bourne, and I'm 13 years old, and I'm in 8th grade in Skokie, just north of Chicago. So before we get started, I want to tell a story about how my dad told me about this conference. So one day, I'm home, and he tells me that he got an email from this Cusp conference, and they said that they want me to speak. So I was just thinking about it, and then my dad just comes out and says, "They're paying you 2 years' worth of your allowance." So I thought about that a little bit more, and I just thought about 2 years' worth of cleaning out the cat's litter box. So I think it's obvious the decision I've made. So this is me in about 3rd grade. I was learning the pottery wheel. Back then, I was so shy I wouldn't order at a restaurant for myself. And I'd make my dad order my food, thanks, Dad, at that time. But you see, middle school, it was pretty stressful for me like a lot of other people. My teachers, well, one of them, she said that she was afraid to send me on to the next grade. And at that point, I was really worried I'd get held back one. I'd always ask my dad, "What am I good at?" And then he'd say, "Well, Lily, you're good at making friends and you're good at inventing. But you don't really get grades for those things in life, so they didn't really seem to matter." Now, I have to admit, it's still a bit intimidating as a junior high school student standing in front of 300 professionals. But I'm a long way from that girl in the picture. The story I am about to tell you is what happened over those years to transform me into someone that could stand in front on the stage today. So the story begins when I was 8 years old. I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, and I noticed that he was spelling a lot because he has Parkinson's disease. It wasn't just a mess for Grandma to clean up. It was embarrassing, and it caused him a lot of independence and dignity. So I thought that if a cup had something to lean off of, then it might not tip so easily. So I drew the sketch. My dad spilt some coffee on the sketch, so I guess that was our first time that not only Parkinson's patients need a no-spill cup. But look how it's signed and dated. Even though I was only 8 when I drew this, my dad took it seriously, and he said that I should sign and date it. The first person that should take your invention seriously is you, so sign and date your sketches. From that sketch, we went to Grandma and Grandpa's house and made a prototype. This is just hand-moldable plastic around a plastic juice cup from my grandma's cupboard. But it worked. We spent the day molding it and changing its shape until it was comfortable. In the end, we got it right, and Grandpa used it for a pretty long time. 3D printers are great for refining the design down the road, but we did dozens of iterations with hand-moldable plastic as Grandpa and Grandma sat there. It was the perfect tool for us to use as our first prototype. About a year later, my aunt started taking me to a pottery studio up in Skokie. This is where I really, really learned how to make pottery and how to make cups and vases and even bowls. Then one day I realized I can make a ceramic version of the kangaroo cup for my dad, since he was always spilling on the keyboard, so I made this for him. After using it for a bit, my dad loved it. Then one day he asked me if I wanted to take it into production. Now, I was 9 years old at this point, so I didn't exactly know what production meant, but I knew it was something big, so this is what I said. Sure, why not? We should try. So we went back to the studio and made a bunch more versions of the cup. We spent a lot of time trying a ton of different shapes and sizes with Grandma and Grandpa. We tried to figure out which handles were most comfortable and which wouldn't tip, and etc. And here's Grandma on the patio testing one. We made a couple of different cups and ended up making a lot of them, as you can clearly see. But this is actually a small sample of them. Eventually, it was time to go to China to find a manufacturer. And my dad and I, we went to Jingdezhen, China, in the Jiangxi province. And that is like in the middle of China, like right there. And it is the ceramics capital of the world, so you can see why we chose that place to go. Many factories in China, they're pretty small, kind of like a garage here, as you can see. They're all pretty old-fashioned. There aren't any computers anywhere. So here I am standing in front of the factory with a stack of plaster molds that you would pour liquid clay into to make cups or teapots. It's all kind of done by hand. So this is a wax pattern we made something like $100 to have made. We point our fingers to make the handles thinner or thicker, and then come back the next day to see how it looked. From this pattern, they made plaster molds. Now, this had nothing to do with the project, but it'll give you a feel of what a strange place the middle of China is. But here's a picture we took on the trip. We took our Sunday off, and we went to a zoo. There was an advertisement to take a picture with you inside the cage petting a tiger. Long story short, we didn't do this, mainly because it was closed. Eventually, we found a manufacturer who made these beautiful prototypes. We took these prototypes and a video camera, and my dad and I sat on a couch and did our video for Indiegogo and Kickstarter. What makes the cup so special? Well, first, by having 3 legs, that obviously is less likely to tip, but our goal wasn't just to design a no-spill cup for kids or people with mobility issues. We wanted to design a cup that was better for everyone. After all, spilled milk is a big enough problem that it has its own idiom. So my personal favorite feature is the fact that the body is raised off the table by the cups. So if you can see here, it is. And so it doesn't leave a ring on the table, which is often like a huge thing, at least for my dad, because I get hounded when I don't use a coaster. Second, it's a tripod. So it's stable on any surface. You can put it in the bed, grass, even a sleeping dog if you get the chance. Go ahead. And they stack, so they store compactly. Melissa Harris of the Tribune interviewed us and wrote us up in the Sunday Tribune. And there's me holding it, the story that she wrote, taking up the whole page. I went to my 5th grade classroom, and I asked my dad, "Dad, is this normal?" And he said, "No, honey. I think your teacher's going to be flabbergasted." And well, she was pretty surprised. And she actually wanted me to talk about the whole project to my class. In the end, we sold over 1,000 cups all over the world. California, Texas, Qatar, Italy, Ireland. It was really amazing. We heard from people that were buying them for relatives or friends or even for their own, and how they hoped it would help them, and to see how excited they were. This was really the moment that changed everything for me. Seeing that I could do something that was helping people, it felt really amazing that I was making a difference. When the campaign ended, we put in an order for the cups we needed. About a month later, my dad pulled me out of school early on the last day before winter break to help pack and ship the boxes to our customers. Now, this is really exciting for me, and I think it would be for you too at that age, let's be honest. And knowing that in a few days, people around the world would be getting my cups and using them. Here's a customer that got their cups in time for Christmas, and they sent us a nice picture of them under the tree. And we thought we were really home free. We were going to keep selling these cups and have a small little business, but here's where the whole new set of troubles begin. After the crowdfunding campaigns, pre-orders really dropped off. It was just my dad and I, and between the cost of the cups and shipping them, we couldn't afford to buy another 1,000 and hold them in inventory. So we figured we'd be better off to find a local source to make the cups. I mean, how hard could it be? Please. So we shipped the molds to the US, and there are these plaster molds down in the corner, as you can see. And we found a potter in the area to make more cups. This took months and months, and ultimately we really never succeeded at that. But hey, for all of 2013, we struggled to make 100 cups. And the ones we did make, as you can see, were uneven and triangular and ugly. But we tried a lot of things, but the pottery studios here were just not set up to do mass production like the ones in China, and we finally had to give up. That was our low point. We had shipped about 1,000 of the 1,050 cups, but there's still a handful of customers waiting, and it was really frustrating. As we were trying to figure out how to get the project unstuck, we got a message from Channel 2 News here in Chicago. Kate Sullivan was doing a story on the makers, and Zach Kaplan of Inventables introduced us to her. They came over to my grandparents' house and interviewed Grandpa and I, and that aired in March of last year. And a couple weeks after that, we get a call from The Tonight Show. The Tonight Show does a segment on kids' inventions, and they wanted us to submit a video and audition for it. Well, we didn't really want to do another crowdfunding campaign because, as I said, there's still another handful of customers waiting. But with the potential of being on The Tonight Show, it was too big an opportunity. So we got another crowdfunding campaign ready. This time it wasn't just my dad and I. There was a team of friends and designers who helped redesign the cup for plastic and a new crowdfunding campaign. We did a bunch more prototypes in different designs in the course of redesigning the cups themselves for plastic. Plastic, as many of you know, is an entirely different process to make than ceramic. So it took a complete redesign of the product to be ready for plastic injection molding. The plastic parts are made from big, unforgiving steel molds and not hand-assembled clay bodies. Doing that redesign in a couple of weeks was not easy. The Tonight Show actually fell through, but by then we put up all this effort, so we may as well go forward. So on May 8th, 2014, we launched anyway. The campaign kind of chugged along. At 25 days, we had $10,000 of sales, but the problem is that the molds for plastic cups costed $20,000, so we weren't really doing that great at that point. Then in June, everything changed. Fast Company Design featured the story, then Business Insider, NPR, WGN, and the list goes on and on. I got used to being in front of the camera and microphone. I had so many radio interviews that my dad installed a landline in my bedroom, which was not something I was familiar with before that. But I mean, seriously, who uses landlines anymore? I don't know anybody who does. We finished the campaign selling 10,000 of the cups, all due to the call from The Tonight Show. It's a bit ironic that the biggest thing that's ever happened to this project was The Tonight Show, even though it never actually happened. If there's one thing I've learned from this journey, that you never know what's a blessing or a setback until later. After the Kickstarter campaign, CNN called and they wanted us to tell the story. They were in Chicago for a few days and they filmed us in 6 locations, from the factory to my bedroom to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and even at my drama practice at school. Then they flew us out to New York for the CNN Heroes Tribute. Here's me in front of the red carpet, as you can see. And then here's some of the celebrities we met. My dad took me, and he doesn't know anything about pop culture, So in this picture with Kathy Griffin, he tagged her as Kathy Lee Gifford, which I definitely asked him to correct. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, they put my grandpa and I on the big screen, and I stood up and the spotlight shone on me, and everyone clapped. It was really amazing.
Honoring young people who are making a difference. At CNN, we call these inspiring kids young wonders. Like the others, our first young wonder tonight saw a problem, thought of a solution, and didn't wait to grow up to actually act. To tell her amazing story is an actor who was the youngest person ever to be nominated for an Academy Award. What did you do when you were 9 years old? I didn't do much. She was nominated at the age of 9 for Beasts of the Southern Wild. She's star of the new film Annie, Quvenzhané Wallis.
Hi. Kids can do amazing things when they're just kids. Mozart wrote his first symphony when he was just 8. Aretha Franklin was singing for churches before she was 10. And Lily Bourne's pretty cool too. She saw that her grandfather was having trouble drinking from a glass. His hand shook a lot because he had Parkinson's disease. So Lily figured out a way to help him. It's just amazing what she created when she was only 8. That's right, 8.
My grandfather has Parkinson's disease that causes him to shake. He's spilled all the time. So I decided to make the kangaroo cup. I came up with the idea when I was around 8 or 9 years old. I wanted to put legs on the cup because I figured that it wouldn't be as likely to spill. The original cup was made out of porcelain. We decided to make a plastic version so it can be used by anybody, like little kids, people with mobility issues. I have a design team and they really do help me so much. Color-wise, yeah, the blue. Mm-hmm.
Lily has sold about 11,000 cups total. Many of her classmates and teachers don't even know what she's doing.
Let it be like the next big thing.
I really do keep the kangaroo cup talk to a minimum.
I remember reading about it on that.
Now the word is getting around school, like, wait, Lily? She did what? She invented this cup? Oh my gosh.
That is so cool. The only wall with no. Inventing this, it just makes me feel awesome that I'm helping people.
Hi, Lily. How you doing?
Good. The cup has changed my grandfather's life because That's the only cup he uses now. Like, once the kangaroo cup came, the other cups that he used, they were just out of the picture. One day, I want to give money from the kangaroo cup to Parkinson's research, and hopefully they'll find a cure.
Here's to you.
Coming up next, John Leguizamo, and later, Kathy.
In March, I got invited to exhibit at the White House Science Fair. I was really excited, and here's another funny story. About 15 minutes after this picture was taken, proudly marching into the White House to set up, I had these images of being escorted right to the Oval Office, but as it turned out, I went to the wrong guard gate after passing through the security, and I found myself literally wandering aimlessly on the north lawn of the White House until a Secret Service officer came up and asked, "Can I help you?" And yeah, I'm really glad they didn't tackle me to the ground. I was very grateful. Luckily, on Monday, the actual science fair, it went a bit more smoothly. The White House Science Fair basically took up the whole White House for the day. I was in the China room, and in the background there, you can see China from Washington and Lincoln. Here, you can see an honor guard standing in front of our door. And I got to meet the president and got interviewed by Bill Nye. Who remembers those days? I know I do. I watched a Bill Nye video actually yesterday, but whatever. And we even made a cup for the president. We even made a cup for the president, and it has the presidential seal with it, so there we go. And one's for the staff, which they seem to love. My spring break was kind of mayhem. Everything happened at once. I went from Ann Arbor to DC for the White House Science Fair. I had interviews and podcasts, a feature in American Girl magazine. And I had a number of auditions with some major reality shows, and one of them was extremely important to me. We did an audition video over and over and over again until finally the cup, the table that was holding all the ceramic cups, it knocked over and they broke. And then I started hysterically crying. My mom and dad, they wanted to stop the whole thing because they were afraid that I was going to have a nervous breakdown and that it was too much for me. And it's true. It's very, very stressful. Not just the shattered cups. We've made a lot of changes to the plastic cups, and from the picture here, they may look like minor changes, but it took a lot of back and forth on those handles to get the right and moldable, and that has been a long delayed production. Many customers are getting understandably cranky, and it's really just me and my dad to keep this going. But here's the thing. Stress is a part of life, and I'm going to need to deal with it. There are going to be so many stressors in my life. Marriage, bills, a paying job. Yes, it feels weird to say that as 13, and I feel so lucky to found something that I love doing. And despite all the chaos, I found something that makes me feel like I am making a difference, and that makes me happy, and I want to keep going. I don't have to ask what I'm good at anymore, and that's a gift that I want to use. As you can tell, this experience has changed my life. 5 years ago, I was so shy and uncertain. Today, I believe I can make a difference. The change was not the newspapers or the TV stories at the White House. That mostly came later. What changed was hearing from strangers that I was making a difference in their lives. Read this quote from one of our backers. Give you some time. It could have been 5 people or 500, but I realized that I was making something that was helping people, that inspired me to do more. Just getting the cups in production is a big effort, and we have our hands full. Just to give you some idea of what's in store for the future. A few months ago, my cousin and I came up with an internet-connected pill box to help Grandpa remind him when to take his pills. So here's me showing Grandpa how the prototype works. It uses a scale to show what pills he's taken and how many he's taken. It will be a while before we can focus any of this attention on this invention, but the point is the kangaroo cups are just the beginning. I want to end with this sketch because I think it's really important. Very often, when I talk to people, they'll say things like, When I was 8 or 9, I wasn't inventing, or my kids haven't invented anything. But seriously, look a bit harder at this sketch. Does it really look that different from what you, your kids, or what other people have made? I really don't think so. We live in a world where you don't have to be a millionaire to bring a product to market. It just takes a bit of faith and imagination. Yes, I know, it sounds cliche, just kind of roll with me, roll with the punches, thank you. But it's true. My family and my community, they had that imagination, and it changed my life. I hope I can convince you that to be that person, either for yourself or others, I don't want you to leave here thinking about me. I want you to walk out that door thinking about the inventions and ideas of those around you, or who knows, maybe even your own. So if I can do it, truly the lesson is anyone can do it. Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions or want to say hello, I'll be around tonight and tomorrow. So let me leave you with one last thing. Sometimes we can inspire people by showing them what they can do. But sometimes it's even simpler than that. Sometimes they already know what they can do, and they just need us to show them that that matters. And you can email me about anything. There's my Twitter, and that is our official product Twitter, and again, my dad. Thank you. Thank you.